I don't know what goes on in the heads of those charming rock stars who ruined my life, but I heard one of them saying that his production, I guess it was Robert Fripp's production of Peter Gabriel's second record, was no good. It was a failure. Um, I'd like to back up. The assumption that people listen to those records and listen to them once upon a time and remember in the frame of reference of the time and space that they were in is still memorable and valid and hasn't been unplugged by iPhones and digital disconnect and Generation X, Y, and Z. It's different than hearing this dude puffery about himself and introduce the platitude of what is supposed to be the spoken consensus. I'll tell you a little bit about the second record of Peter Gabriel, the one that scratches the air. I was playing saxophone with one of the Zeos in my orchestra class. Off and on occasionally listening to Voyage of the Acolyte and stuff like that. Got around to listening to it. But the point is that the second record had a time frame. It was a sort of blue plaid record. He was, I sort of agree with Rutherford's comment that Genesis introduced punk with the Lamb. And there was a sort of skinhead wanderlust about the second record, but it was still full of social commentary. And there was, there were rumors around that time that there were affairs in the family, people shaving their heads, and the guerrilla theater of street rehabilitation. I mean, these guys knew how easy it was to hire a girl to go undercover to knock some kid. I didn't know that. But when I hitchhiked to St. Louis to hear Fripp play, Jimmy Carter gave what G. Gordon Liddy called his Easter Bunny speech. I beg you to bear in mind, that was when Fripp published the Vinyl Solution. It was a clue in the East Palestine prelude to the Shaviti operation in Gaza. I shouldn't say Shaviti, the Shore Oil operation in Gaza. But my point is that Carter was the central energy that came through on the second record. And it's important to understand that Gabriel called that like a magazine edition of, that's why he said it's the second record has the same title, Peter Gabriel. Because it's, from the newsstand, Peter Gabriel, come subscribe to the new edition. And White Shadow is the song that, I don't know, I heard Gabriel bombastically extol the guitar solo at the end. It doesn't really even sound like a guitar solo. I don't think that's the point of the record. The Zio I was jamming with occasionally pointed out that there were stage coaches on the back of a $10 bill. 10 coaches rolling to the dust. Chrome wheels turn the rust. Hang on the side they know they must. Hang on the greenback words, in God we trust. I went to the governor's school and alluded to that in my poem, The Symbol, about Alexander Solzhenitsyn. No one knew if the spirit died or up to go like Kentucky Fried. Now that's, you know, then there's some Peter Gabriel stuff, meaning it has a, you know, swashbuckling English literary lilt and takes you exciting imaginative places. But the point is that he's alluding to what was in the air about Carter's so-called Malay, the year of Malay. Carter even opined that people weren't even voting in the way they should be. So it was a magazine about the Carter administration, and it did its share in drumming up the defeat of Carter by propounding the legitimacy of the so-called observation about the times we lived in. I want to tell you the truth about White Shadow. It was a spellbinding musical opus. I admit it was probably diarrhea from the mind of Crocagri who Gabriel was always doing slumming for in his Gestapo actions. I mean, he's the kick down your door and shoot the man in the bed kid for Crocagri. And of course, it was about the blinding light of Hiroshima and the shadows on the wall and all that. And he was getting around to coming after the center. But the point is, it was a beautiful song. It had existential fever to it. It was good to hear Be Alive around that song. And the tour was dominated by this existential sense of balance, the way they hung the lights. There was a beautiful balance to that record, a beautiful balance to that song on that record. And the things that underpinned it and didn't undermine it, the things that surrounded it. You could call them failures if you want to, the sort of stage props. But who cares? If the production of the song White Shadow is that good, how can you complain about anything else? You know, Indigo was indulgent. My father made a comment that sounds like Gabriel makes self-pity his profession. I thought that was well said. And perspective, you know, there were charming little hints of the mind at work on those records, you know, and throughout that whole album. But don't fool yourself. The production on that record hardly sucked. And it was really a snapshot of the living and vibrancy of that tour when you hear White Shadow. That's what the tour was like. If you put on your blue plaid, sit down with your nostalgia and your ice cream cone, and put on your thinking cap and want to get an observation of the Carter era and actually see into Gabriel's second record. Just pull out your DVD player, pop it in, and listen to White Shadow. It will take you back in time. It was a beautiful, beautiful moment in time.